Hello and welcome to this end of the year edition of Pop and Scott Talk Baseball. How you doing today, Dad?
Oh, we're doing fine.
Good,
Wait for
good.
the big storms to come in this evening. So,
Have a good Christmas. I didn't get a chance to come up this year, but
oh yeah, we went over to Corey, our granddaughter's house, and we we went over there, and Santa Claus brought our 3-year-old great granddaughter a little camping set. So it was in a box. So she said, "Want to know if I could put it together?" So I asked Dad, if her dad, if it was all right. He said, "Sure." So I put the camping set up, and so she and I had to camp.
oh yeah,
We were camping, and then Nanny gave her a little vacuum cleaner, and she got the vacuum cleaner and made me get out of the way, and she was vacuuming out the tent. So,
okay.
so anyway, we had a great time.
Right.
The baby, she was laying on the floor on her mat underneath one of those mobiles, that they look at, and she's only a few months old. So I laid down on the floor with her and rubbed her tummy and that, and enjoyed being around her. So.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that on the Facebooks
Of what?
of you and the youngest.
Oh, I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
They took a picture of it.
But yeah, it seemed like a nice time. Good. It was quiet around here. I got to sleep 2 days without my alarm going off. It was great.
Yeah.
For me. So, watch sports, play video games, and relax. So, yeah, this week, a lot of news. Before we get into it, I know you're going to talk about Greg Gumbel, who was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have. There were 2 passings this week that were kind of significant. And Greg Gumbel, of course.
Yeah, he's one of the voices of my generation. Him, Bob Costas. There's a group of them.
He's my age.
Yeah.
78.
Yeah, and
I'll be 79 a week from Tuesday.
Right. So it was like that was it was like, whoa, that one kind of was like, man, that's a voice I've heard most of my life, and yeah, that was sad to hear. But
well, he did some Wimbledon, he did some Olympics, he did a lot of NFL. He was everything I've read about him and heard about him, because they were all the different networks were giving him tributes, and everybody said the same thing. He was one of the nicest individuals they'd ever met.
Right.
And he when he came across like that, he just seemed
he did
across a nice person. Yeah. But he was 78 years old and he got cancer, and cancer doesn't discriminate. It can hit anybody. Right. The other passing, and this is just, my parents were in World War II. My dad was in the Navy fighting the Japanese in the Pacific, and my mom was in the Army Medical Corps as like a nurse's aide on the East Coast when all the troops were coming back from Europe wounded. She was helping out, take care of them. So they were both in the Second World War, and my grandmother on my mother's side was a Rosie the Riveter. She learned how to weld. They taught her how to weld, and she was welding stuff on Jeeps up in a Ford Motor Company plant in Dearborn, Michigan. So there's a lot of World War II that's significant in my life. And his name was Warren Red Upton. He was the oldest surviving. There's a few surviving Pearl Harbor members, but he was the oldest. And he passed Saturday. He was 105. He was the radio operator on the USS, one of the radio operators on the USS Utah when they took 2 torpedoes. And he said he was just fortunate enough that a friend of his grabbed him by the collar and got him out, and they could get in the water and swim to safety. So, which
was tough because all the oil was burning on top.
Yeah, it was. He said he was just lucky enough that they got out and got away from it.
Yeah. He got one more, I hate to say anniversary, but one more year, because December 7th. So, a remembrance is probably the best thing to say. So I did not know that. That's very interesting. I love my history. So thank you for that. And speaking of history, I think there was some history made, especially I think today even. with Corbin Burns.
Well, that was overnight that Corbin Burns. Well, no, Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns signed with out of the blue. He signed with the Diamondbacks, and I'm going to go into this in depth because this is significant. This is significant because remember a couple of years ago, Arizona I was all over Arizona, and winning that division and everything. I picked them to win it last year, and they had an off year, a lot of injuries, so that always plays a part. But this could be significant for them.
That pitching staff, that starters.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know who they're going to have to replace Christian Walker in that leadership role at first base. But
they got Josh Naylor.
Yeah, but he's not the same.
No, he's not Christian Walker. He's a little younger, but
he is very energetic. Josh Naylor is. Yeah,
and they signed Burns. Burns could have gotten more money from the Toronto Blue Jays, but I didn't know it. But his home is in Arizona.
Yeah, so that's what I read today.
And he wanted to stay at home. He wanted to stay at home, so he took less money, which it took a lot of money. But I don't care when you see people.
210 million is 210 million.
Ordinary people like us. They talk about he took $10 million less, and I'm going, yeah, but he got 260.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, it's not, that's like me saying, oh, wait a minute, Mike, here's $100. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to keep a nickel.
Yeah, he's not eating ramen like off the shelf. He's got a chef at his house making ramen.
No, he's set. But he got 260 million. So for 6 years, so he's going to finish his career. Well, now he's got an opt out after 26. So he could opt out, but who knows if he likes it there? I mean, that's his home.
Right.
Another thing too, Gleyber Torres, the infielder, 27 years old. The Yankees kind of gave up on him, ran him out of Dodge. He had a bad year last year, and they kind of gave up on him, and he went to the Tigers.
Yep.
And the reason he went to the Tigers is he doesn't want to play third base. He wants to go play second. So the Tigers said he could play second base for them. The Boston Red Sox. Now, here's one of these deals where I'm going to mention two names in a trade that probably nobody ever heard of. Boston and Minnesota had traded. Boston, they picked up left-handed pitcher Giovanni Moran, and Minnesota, from Boston, they got catcher infielder Mickey Gaspar. Now, we just mentioned Corbin Burns and $260 million. Last week we were talking about Soto. I mean, but sometimes we mentioned this last year at the same time of the year. Sometimes it's the little trades, it's the little pickups, it's the things you do on the side. You pick up a guy and you say, well, and then he has a decent year, or he fills a hole that you need filled. These little trades sometimes mean a lot, and the Boston Red Sox. Now here again, they've got a pretty good starting pitching staff, but they need relievers, so they picked up this left-handed reliever. So I mean, they're trying to fill out their team, their bullpen, and I think we talked about last week. The Yankees may have the best starting rotation in baseball. We'll just have to wait and see. But there's 3 or 4 of them now that look pretty good.
That Diamondbacks, as they come back healthy, they got
and they're not even counting on Montgomery.
Right. So,
I mean, it's just unbelievable. But the other thing about Burns was that he was a 4-time All-Star. So, I mean, but see, the other thing about the Orioles not signing him in that, near the end of the year last year, he was out of gas.
Yeah.
The last month of the season, he didn't pitch that well. He was getting rocked.
Yeah. He's not a young guy anymore either.
No, he's 30. He's 30 years old, which
for a pitcher,
that's diapers. But I mean, for an athlete, 30 is getting up there. Philadelphia, here we go. They signed, from our favorite team, the Angels. They have no players left. Everybody signed with somebody else. No.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, if you had a chance.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I had a chance to live in Southern California as opposed
That's
to
true.
someplace else. I might like
Yeah,
it.
that ball field it's a little inland, but it's beautiful around there.
But it was Guilio Zuninga, 26 years old, a right-handed. He's a right-handed relief pitcher, and they picked him up from the Angels. Oh, and the Otanis are expecting their first child.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So, so they're going to have their first child. The San Francisco Giants, I saw this morning when I was doing some research. The San Francisco Giants have missed out on Burns. They wanted Burns and they missed out on it.
This is 2 years in a row of them missing out on a lot of players. They're putting a lot of money out.
Then, well, first of all, they wanted Soto because he was off the boards.
Yeah.
So then they wanted to get Burns. So then that didn't work. So now it looks like San Francisco might make a run on Pete Alonso, see if they can get him.
Yeah, I've been reading that today. Yeah.
So they just
more it was like, oh, Pete's coming back. And now San Francisco's got this huge surplus of money.
Yeah, because they haven't lost it on anybody. They haven't signed. They signed Willie Adames to a big contract.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. They got some more money. But anyway, the Arizona Diamondbacks, their starting rotation. I'll have to go to my notes, but their starting rotation is Burns, right-hander Zach Gallen, right-hander Merrill Kelly, left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez, and right-handed pitcher Brandon Pfaadt. Now, you have Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly as your 2 and 3 starters. You might have the best 2 and 3 starters in baseball.
Right.
I mean, that's outstanding.
Yeah, you got 3 number ones probably right there.
I'll have to go. I'll have to look.
Teams.
I'll have to go look into this and check on their bullpen and see what they have in their bullpen. But
I know in the past their closer, they're not good on the back end. They might have some good middle, but I know the last 2 years, even when they made their World Series run, they were using bullpen by committee. Like whoever the coach thought had it was the closer that week. They moved from that guy. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean that's they closer by committee, and
yeah.
I mean it got him to the World Series, so it couldn't have been all
right.
But I mean their starting lineup and their batting order, they have Corbin Carroll in the outfield, second baseman Ketel Marte, the outfielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr., first baseman Josh Naylor is hitting cleanup. Their catcher Gabriel Moreno, who's a good catcher,
Very good catcher.
Is hitting fifth. Third baseman Eugenio Suarez is hitting sixth. Outfielder Jake McCarthy is hitting seventh.
From UVA.
From
UVA.
Yep. The DH will be Pavin Smith hitting eighth, and the shortstop will be Geraldo Perdomo.
And Pavin Smith from UVA.
So they have a decent lineup. Now they lost Christian Walker and they lost Jock Peterson. But even with that, they have the potential, especially if Corbin Carroll has a bounce back year after he had a terrible year last year, especially the first half. He started doing better in the second half, but he had a terrible first half. He's hitting like 144 at the All-Star break. But they've got a nice
year.
Well, they've got
the league catches up to you, and you gotta recalibrate.
Well, you take those Jake McCarthy, Corbin Carroll, and Gurriel in the outfield. You got some guys that cover some territory.
Yeah. There's not going to be many. Well, and even before the center fielder Thompson, or whatever. I don't know if he's still with them, and he's their fourth outfielder or whatever. He's probably just as fast as Corbin Carroll. They got to hit the home run in the World Series. 2 years ago, whatever.
Well, one of the other things is too. They said that there's a lot of flexibility on that team. You got guys can play different positions.
Well, that some teams like that, so you can,
Well, you'd be like San Diego and have 8 shortstops, a pitcher,
switchblades. Or
yeah, I mean it's just you, that's the other thing.
Swiss Army knife.
Profar hasn't signed with them. He's asking quite a bit of money, and San Diego's a little strapped. I mean, last year they were borrowing money to,
Well, they had the last 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they're kind of strapped. So they haven't signed Profar. I understand that Seattle is making a kind of a play for him. So we'll just have to wait and see. Seattle is like, they have great pitching, but it's no man's land as far as hitting, because for some reason that ballpark plays big, and a lot of people don't want to go there because it plays big. You get robbed of a lot of home runs, in these little bandbox ballparks that they built about 25, 30 years ago. So, I mean, that's basically all I've got today, because there wasn't a whole lot, the holidays, the signings. I think they learned. Burns and some of the other pitchers saw what happened last year with Montgomery, and when the pitchers signed late, and they had a problem getting in shape, in baseball shape. So I think that's one of the reasons, and he wanted to stay home, and I don't blame him. I mean, that's you can make all the money in the world, but if you're miserable where you are, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think he'll be on 260. In Arizona, he'll be all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He can buy a lot of shade and a pool. So he'll be fine. And I think the other thing is it's kind of disappointing, because here again, the Orioles just aren't doing anything. I mean, they're just not.
I don't get it. They're not the only team. There's several teams, like you said, the Mariners. They really haven't done anything. I mean, Toronto can't figure what to do. I don't know if they want to rebuild or work with what they got. I think they're very
well. Here, another report was during that the Dodgers were interested in trading for Bichette.
Yeah, well, him and the Mets were, talked about trading for Vlad Jr. There's teams, but they haven't done anything. Vlad has told them how much it's going to take for him to be there after this year. And, they just seem like a very confused franchise right now.
Well, remember a few years ago, they broke the bank spending money left and right.
Well, right.
And they only got far.
And then you get caught in the middle. We've talked about it before, where teams don't know if they want, okay, we can make the play. We can make a run for the playoffs, but we're probably not going to be good enough to be the World Series. So they get caught in that limbo. What do we do? Do we trade to get 2 players to try to make a World Series run? Or do we, wait till next year? Trade away for next year or further down the line. It's very this is where the guys in the front office make their bucks.
Yeah. Don't want to pay that, and if they don't want to pay that exorbitant amount of money that Guerrero's asking for, he'd be trade bait.
Yeah, and I have a funny feeling we're going to see him and Bichette gone this year, sometime this year. I really do.
Well, we talk about the teams that haven't spent a lot. I mean, if you really want to talk about it, you can flip that script and just talk about the teams that have spent a lot. The Mets, the Dodgers. Well, now Arizona is spent on one guy, but you don't have that many teams that have spent a lot of money. The Yankees, they like I said before, they might have made out because they didn't sign Soto. It's that big contract.
Right.
They picked up a lot of pieces. Now,
the reason, in the part, that I'm still waiting for, okay, with the Mets is they did sign Soto, but you need another part to go with him, and you need some pitching. And we got a lefty, and we still need one more bat. I read today that they're looking at Santander from Baltimore.
Oh yeah, Santander, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
but I mean, I think everybody's looking at him.
That's another bat San Francisco's looking at.
Yeah, I mean, that's another guy that, yeah, they're not the Mets. He's the only one. No crap, they're looking at him. No, I mean, he's good. I hate when I read articles like that, but you know.
Well, I mean, I look on the internet every morning, and in every other story is proposed trade. Proposed, right. This is proposed. Like I said a few weeks ago, the Yankees. It was proposed. The Yankees had picked up 300 players because nobody.
Right.
Every other week it was, they're going back. Soto's going back to New York. They're going to get Alonso. They're going to trade for Guerrero and Bichette. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. So now the thing is, Arenado didn't want to be traded to the Yankees, but since his Goldschmidt went there, then he might do it. Well, might doesn't mean he's done it. So
right.
I don't want to even see that article.
Well, they're just trying to sell.
Well, they're paid to write something, so they got to write something.
Right, especially on the internet. They're got to get those ads. But
I looked all over the place because I wanted to see if we had another report on why pitchers were getting hurt.
Yeah.
I thought some other genius was going to come out and say,
"Well, pitchers are not throwing complete games."
Gee, they're throwing too hard.
Right.
This morning, we didn't have Sunday school this morning. We just had a church service. So I was looking at MLB, and they had a special on there. They were junior. They did an hour on junior, and then they did an hour on now I can't think of it. But anyway, they started talking about pitchers, and they were talking about Schmaltz being throwing hard. But the rest of the guys on that staff, starters, they didn't throw hard. They just threw where they wanted to throw it. Mm-hmm. And they talked about some of the pitchers back in the day who pitched like.
But will tell you he didn't throw hard every pitch.
No, and he didn't throw hard every inning.
Right.
The
only time he did is when they moved him out to the bullpen.
It was on Greg Maddux.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was on Greg Maddux, and he threw the ball about 90, 91 miles.
He started out as a hard thrower.
Yeah, but he
got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, he said once he learned how to pitch, mm-hmm. and he said, a lot of the pitchers from the old days pitched like that. He said they had a Jim Palmer on the Orioles staff, and he threw high fastballs. That's all he threw was high fastballs. But they had other people on that staff like Cuellar, and they didn't throw hard, but they threw the ball where they wanted to throw.
Steve Stone, he didn't throw very hard.
No, Steve Stone and Cuellar, they just didn't. They just knew where to throw. And he said the same thing. He said Tom Seaver said it. He said it best: up, down, in, and out. And
he moved the eyes.
That's how you pitch. That's how you pitch. Move the batter's eyes, and then find out what the batter's weakness is and pitch to it.
Yep.
And he said the only problem with that is that if too many pitchers start pitching to the weakness, pretty soon it won't be a weakness.
Right.
He'll work on that.
Right. Well, that's what I was talking before with Corbin Carroll. A lot of these guys have a sophomore slump because somebody had figured out what his weakness is, and it's a copycat league. Every league is. So once they find out, then you got to recalibrate to catch up to that.
Well, that happens in almost every professional sport.
Right.
When a guy's having a good year and they finally figured this out. They have a whole off season for all the defensive coordinators to figure out this quarterback, or they got all off season to see how this kid skates, in the National Hockey League to figure out a way to defend him and things like. So it's like that in basketball. It's like that in every sport, where some teams, players, especially rookies, they come out the next year thinking they can do the same thing they did the year before, and it doesn't work because everybody's had an off season to work on. So
a bunch of tape.
But now
a room full of coaches to break you down.
And if you don't have enough coaches, you got the panty waist upstairs crunching the numbers.
That's right.
And you get down, So I mean, you got a lot of things going against you. So just like the quarterback in Houston, who's having a down year because everybody figured him out and they've been injuries. And so between the two,
and I've always said this in football, and I know that we don't talk football very much, but you got to remember, last year Texas wasn't a first place team; they were a last place team.
And this year they're
their last place teams. This year they're first place team playing other first place. The NFL's great. I love how the NFL does their.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The two best rookie quarterbacks are the kid from Washington and the kid from Denver.
Yes,
as far as their year is concerned.
Yeah, and but
they're playing last place schedules.
Right.
So they're playing lower schedules. They don't play as many great teams, but they both look. I mean, I watched that kid. Oh my gosh, Knicks yesterday against that Cincinnati. That was some game. But
Bo Nix is 30 years old, so
yeah.
He's not. But
I mean, he was in college for he was in college for 6 years. I mean, he was in college longer than some people have a career. I mean,
they called him doctor when he was
he got an honorary doctorate just for longevity. But I mean, I'm kind of interested now. I'm going to really be paying attention to Arizona this year because with this team, hopefully they don't have any injuries and
this makes it
rotation
very, very interesting in the West now. This West, because I think we were both thinking the Dodgers weren't going to have much. Maybe the Padres had something for them. But man, now we come in with Diamondbacks.
A lot's going to depend on where that Japanese pitcher goes.
Yeah.
If he goes to San Diego, then they're in the hunt because they'll have another starter. They've got good starters already, and then they'll have a fifth starter, and they're going to be in the hunt along with the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks.
Right. Well, do we have anything to add on our?
Well, a little yogiism for this week is somebody was interviewing him and they asked him about Don Larson's perfect game in the sixth game of the 1956 World Series, and Yogi said it's never happened in World Series history, and it hasn't happened since. There again, when he first says it, everybody you laugh, but then when you think about it, it actually makes sense.
Yes.
So that's the intriguing part about Yogi and some of the things Casey Stengel used to say. They're funny.
Right. And I'm gonna put you on a spot here for on our way out on a season ending or our year ending show here. What is probably your best the memory that sticks out the most in your bad, good, different, whatever for baseball this year?
This year?
Yeah, 2024.
If I had to pick one thing,
the
passing of Willie Mays.
Passing Willie Mays. Okay.
I grew up watching Willie Mays. I saw that. My first recollection of watching baseball was the 1954 World Series when I could walk home from school and watch it, and my mom let me stay home for the first game when he made that catch off of Vic's Works. I saw Willie Mays when he was just a kid, when I was but a little kid. So when he passed, I just remember how great he was. Like I remember when Hank Aaron passed, it was the same thing. These guys I watched coming up, and Willie Mays, I think, that was, and I'm not saying it was sad. I liked it because they did so much recollection of his history and his.
I did because I didn't think it was. I mean, not the same way. It was just for somebody that didn't get to see him play. It was, I've seen all the highlights, and to relive some of those things and have people like you and other people that actually, listen to the stories and watch through your eyes, like his life and what you got to see. That was amazing. That's what I liked about this game so much. But
Well, on the good side, it would be the playoffs in the World Series.
Yeah.
That was
For me, it's as much as we've made fun of some of this that I'm about to bring up, but I just want to talk about how well young guys in the league, the first come in the league, how well they play defense. That we see a lot of mishaps, and those are always bigger. You know, we always point those out, but man, these kids can play the field. The outfield at Dylan Cruz kid, you got shortstops everywhere. We watched more and more shortstops getting drafted because of athleticism. Defensive catchers, yeah, I know you've been this one knee thing drives you crazy, but how well they play with that one knee.
Well, they've learned how to do it.
Right. And
that first year they were doing it, it was sad.
Right. And I just wanted to point that I sit there and just the amazing plays that these, just how far advanced these youngsters are. We always want to talk about hitting, but just to see how advanced they are in the field is pretty amazing to me. And I can't wait to continue that this season and what young players come up this year. So
watch the League World Series in the summer.
Yes.
Watch how well those kids play defense.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is awesome. So, let us know what you thought of 2024 down below, what you're looking forward to 2025. Just, a lot more stuff to go on in this off season. Less than 2 months now for pitchers and catchers. So exciting times. So until next time, like, share, tell a friend.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. And we'll see you in 2025. See ya.